Before we begin, I want to let you know that you inspired this episode. After my episode, I learned boundaries the hard way. I asked you, when was the first time you realized you needed boundaries? Your answers were clear. After a breakup, in family drama, or either you're still learning. So, this begins a three-part mini-series. Today we start with family. Next, we'll step into relationships. And finally, we'll close with still learning. Because the truth is, boundaries are never one and done. They are a lifelong practice. So, take a breath. This one's tender, but it's going to set you free. Welcome to Talks with Tawanda, where faith, healing, and real life conversations meet. I am Tawanda, a coach and a woman on a journey of transformation just like you. My prayer is that this space helps your soul breathe and your heart rise again. I want you to go ahead and settle your shoulders, unclench your jaw. If it's safe, close your eyes for a second. I want you to inhale peace, hold it, exhale pressure. Again, inhale truth, hold it, exhale fear. Because what I'm about to share with you may stir up some deep feelings. I want to set a tone right here that it's okay if it triggers something in you. You are safe in this space. You are not alone. And as I share my truth, I invite you to reflect on your own, knowing that healing is possible. I'll be honest, my first teacher on boundaries was my mother, because not because she taught me how to set them, but because she showed me what life looked like without them. I was raised in the shadows of her pain, a house where it was her way or no way. When someone has had so much taken from them, control can feel like safety. And because she didn't understand boundaries, we weren't allowed to have them either. That shaped me and my siblings in ways that left marks emotionally and physically. I was told my voice didn't matter. When I tried to advocate for myself, it was shut down. As a child, I carried the responsibility I shouldn't have, not just as an older sister, but as what seemed a second parent. And that weight followed me into adulthood. Here's what I understand now. Family pain has roots. My mother never dealt with the root of her pain, so the fruit of her pain fell into our lives. And even now, she still hasn't chosen to face those roots. But here's where freedom began for me. I cannot make her heal. That's not my job. I choose to remain a daughter because that's who I am, but on my own terms. If I had it my way, I'll share everything with my mother. I would laugh with her. I would sit and talk with her without needing armor over my heart. But that's not the space she chose. So I had to choose peace, not punishment, acceptance, not agreement. Let me share a turning point in my life when everything came and placed itself at my feet, where the mirror and the reflection that I saw shine so deep in this season in life. What was so painful also felt so good. It also felt relief. It was relief in the pain. So let me just take you back to this season that I was in. I remember taking a flight back to Texas from a book retreat. I had just published my first book. The moment that I first started putting out different things would show the reflection of what I was dealing with and what I was working on healing through. So it was a lot beginning to be uncovered in that space at that time. I remember moments of having prayers, God, whatever it is that I'm holding on to, that you wouldn't have me carry into the next season of my life where I am afraid or too weak to let it go. Could you just take it from me? So in this moment of life, there was a lot of things that I really did have to straighten out in life so that I can get to that point in which I was searching to reach, and that was my peace. So I'm getting ready to catch a flight, and I get a phone call from my ex-husband. And on the other end of that call, he stated, I just got off the phone with your mom and I invited her to come live with us. I know that wasn't your plan, but I felt that was my way of helping. So she'll be flying down here Tuesday. This was Sunday. And I was in shock. I was in shock. I felt betrayal. I felt very uneasy. I felt overlooked. It was a lot of feelings that I had in this moment. I remember being on the other end of the phone and I couldn't say anything. We had had a conversation before where I had stated that once I got back to Texas that I was gonna drive down to where my mother was because it was a situation that she was in. And it was gonna be to drive down to where she was to help her get things sorted out. And first time after years of knowing each other, his very first time of ever reaching out to her was to call her and invite her to come live with us. I would have never had that as an option if I had to be honest with you. And you would soon learn why. I was in shock. I remember placing a call to my brother and I had told him what had went on and he was just as shocked, like why would he do that? I didn't even have the energy in that moment to fight against it. I didn't even have the energy to say to him what I really felt like saying to him. Um, I remember I'm driving to the airport and I'm in Atlanta, Georgia, heading back to Texas. And I was numb when he said it. I was numb when he said to me that he had invited my mother to come live with us. He knew how she spoke to me. He knew how she treated me. He knew the tension that was there. And although he did see me in position to where I still wanted to be a good daughter, I know many of you may know what that looks like, or a good son for those that's not a daughter. So after talking to my brother and things in place and this is said and I'm like, okay, this is the whole situation. The boundary that I did have set was that I wouldn't allow myself to share certain space with my mom. I would put things in position to work around it when the need came to where she really needed my assistance because irregardless of how she had treated me, I had already made a decision in my heart that I was going to be there. But what I also needed to do was understand that there were certain boundaries that I still allowed to be crossed, and it caused a lot of pain. And my way of protecting myself was to kind of distance myself. And again, my boundary was to not be in a certain space because of certain situations before. But here we are. She's on her way Tuesday. I didn't say no. I just agreed and accepted it. When I look back on that moment, and you would understand soon why I needed that. I needed that moment, and I realized that when I look back at it, if had not experienced these moments, knowing that I had already picked up a habit that I've been carrying along with me that has been causing me pains in different areas of my life, if I hadn't got here in this season, in that moment, then it would not have helped shape me into who I am now. So let me explain. That Tuesday morning, I go pick her up from the airport, and we get to the house. I had already made up in my mind that I was going to work on not allowing how she looked at me and how she viewed me and to be an effect, but also I was praying that this be a moment where there's not confusion or agitation, that we can actually be here and do what needs to be done, get her in the space in which she needed to be, which was her own place and things of that nature. So I was on a mission, because at this point I did say yes. I was scared. I was nervous. There was so many different emotions going on, and I'm just being honest with you. And I even sat longer and more in my prayer closet, because I knew that I was in a warfare. I was in a battle in my life. This is the turning point. You will hear in the next segment when I talk about the relationship, because it ties into it. So that's another backstory within itself. So let's sit here. I am in the home with my mother. In the moment, I'll say like an hour after she gets there, the jab started, the energy started that she would always give me unnecessarily. And so, we get there, I'm making sure she's comfortable. I remember her being on a phone with someone, and she made a statement. She said, "Yes, I'm in Texas." She said, "I would have never came if it wasn't for my son-in-law inviting me. I wouldn't have dare came down here if it was my daughter that did." Wow. I said, okay. It just didn't sit right in my spirit, but I didn't say anything. I didn't allow it to really get to me. Every day that she sat in my house, there was something negative she had to say about me. There was something that she had to try to go against me on. That was something, it can be an item that's mine, that I say, no, I want to drink that, or I want to eat that myself. It's only a little bit or enough for me. And I remember moments that she would literally go in there and get it, make sure I see and notice it. It was this smirk that she would give me at times, and she would actually take it. She wanted to continue to have power over me, the power that she had always had, from a young age, because I knew no different. I knew no better. So I remember going through this moment, and I'm not going to tell every day, every detail, but just to shape the space of where I was and what actually taking place, how it got what seemed to be worse, but also the same, just shaped on a different day. There was moments in this space, as I stated, was so uncomfortable. And it didn't just pour over to me. It was from calling my kids demons, and my children are respectful. They never did anything to their grandmother to try to hurt her or be disrespectful, and they mostly stayed to themselves. She would lose things and accuse them of it, and even if she found it, knowing they had nothing to do with it, there was no apology that she felt that she needed to give. It was just a toxic space. There was moments she would sit at my kitchen table and she would start saying prayers. And these prayers was praying against me. She was asking God to take everything that I had away from me. She was asking him not to bless me. And I remember sitting in moments, hurt, confused, frustrated, mad, I remember hearing her voice say, don't respond, don't react. Set boundaries. So my boundary or my space, instead of getting mad, I asked her, hey, I'm not going to tell you who to pray to, when to pray, or how to pray. They're your prayers. But I ask that you excuse yourself from the ears of me and my children when you decide to want to pray against us. See, you can do what you want because you not do it in my presence. That provoked her to want to do it more. I remember her standing in my house, looking me in my face after me not, I think, allowing her to use my car, it was. And I had my reasons behind it. And she went so low as to say to me, I wish your dad would have kicked me down the stairs and killed you when I was pregnant with you. Those were her words. I questioned what she stated just in case I misunderstood, but she stated again, I wish your dad would have kicked me down the stairs and killed you when I was pregnant with you. So I can't stand you. And I'm going to be honest with you, it hurt, but it also felt free. Having a conversation with one of my aunts and sharing with my aunt what was just stated. And I was in shock, and my aunt was mad, and I just needed someone else to know about it. But I wasn't mad. I realized that the feeling that tried to come up was a feeling that I already had many times before, where she said those words. In that moment, I realized that it was so familiar. So her actions had always showed me that. She showed me what she felt about me. It was already there. See, I was on my journey to healing already, and where I was still putting the pieces together, this was the piece that I needed. This was the piece that I needed. I needed her to say that if that's what she wanted to do. Because it let me know and understand that there's a box that she has. There were so many things that took place in this time. How she acted, the looks she gave, the grins or the smirk she gave. It felt like, I'm just going to be honest, because this is my truth. It felt like it was a spirit. I realize even now, no one else can convince me that it wasn't a spirit that I was fighting against. And understanding that helped me out a lot too in this journey of healing. After it was said, and I said, okay, say no more. I remember having a conversation with my aunt to share with her what was just stated, and she was furious. I said, no, don't get mad. I said, it's okay. It's her truth. She said, I'm going to say something to her. And she called and she questioned her about it. And she said, there's no need for me to be fake about it no more. That's my truth, and I'm standing in my truth. I accepted it. I accepted it. That's the moment I realized that she actually had a box. And I had to make a choice on if I was going to stand in it with her or not. In this moment, I realized this season would either break me or make me. I cried, I prayed, I journaled, I forgave. And I finally understood that my peace is my responsibility. That's when I realized her reactions, her words, her pain, they were hers. My responsibility was to set boundaries and be at peace with the outcome. That's when I saw the truth as clearly as if God put it in my hands. My mother had a box built for her pain, control, fear, and unhealthy wounds. For years, I kept stepping inside that box trying to pull her out. But the box was too small for the both of us. And every visit let me down a fit. So I made a decision. I would love her in her box. But I refused to sit in the box with her. Her feelings about me are hers. A version of me is hers. Whether she healed or not, that belongs to her. I don't have to be mad. I don't have to defend myself. And she doesn't owe me what she can't give me. I made a promise to myself. I will no longer put myself in a position where I have to consistently forgive fresh wounds. Respectfully, I love her from outside the box because my peace matters. I am responsible for my boundaries. I am not responsible for how someone else feels about them. And once I accepted that, I made peace with the outcome of her reaction. See, I realized that every time I set a boundary, every time I wanted to stay in a certain space, I would allow her reaction to hurt me. Even if I said no, the guilt that she put out there in the space, the fear that I had myself and the uncertainties, it just put a lot of unhealthiness into that space. But once I accepted it, I made peace with the outcome of her reactions. Her words were hers. Her choices were hers. Her healing were hers. But my peace, now that's mine. That's the only thing I'm responsible for. Many of us grew up hearing children obey your parents in the Lord, and that matters. But the same passage also says, parents, do not provoke your children in anger. God built balance into family, honor and responsibility. Obedience without love becomes control. Control without respect becomes harm. Lives When a parent lives unhealed, the spillover can drench the whole household. So here's my reframe. I don't have to inherit what someone else refused to heal. I can honor my role as a daughter and still honor my peace. Both can be true. Growing up not having the opportunity or given permission to say no when I know a yes was going to hurt me started from within my mother's household. And it shaped me, and I carried it over into relationships and spaces that I visited. In this moment, in this season of life, I made a decision. Because when you get in a position, in a place where you grow up without healthy boundaries, it shapes you. It teaches you to feel guilt for protecting yourself. It makes you believe silence is safer than speaking. But here's the truth. Boundaries don't just protect, they shape who we are. Because unhealthy boundaries or the absence of boundaries shapes us in a painful way. But healthy boundaries, they reshape us into who we were always meant to be. The shapes of boundaries. Boundaries are not walls. They are rivers, carving out the shape of who we are. Within them, we spill everywhere, flooding places we don't belong, drowning in obligations, losing ourselves in weight of everyone else's expectations. But when we learn to set them, we become the landscape with form, a valley where peace can rest, a mountain that cannot be moved, and a garden that grows only what's meant to be nourished. Boundaries are not punishments, they are protection. They are the quiet way we teach the world what love for ourselves really look like. They say, my yes is sacred, my no is holy, my presence is a gift, not a guarantee. Boundaries shape our voice. They remind us we are not here to shrink. They remind us that we are not responsible for carrying every storm. They remind us that we still can love deeply without abandoning ourselves. So if you want to know the shape of a person, look at their boundaries. That is where their freedom is traced. That is where their worth is drawn. That is where their peace lives. Boundaries do not make us less giving. They make our giving more pure. They do not make us less loving. They make our love real. And they do not make us selfish. They make us whole. Because when a person chooses boundaries, they finally chooses themselves. And that choice is the beginning of becoming. And that's why learning to set boundaries matter. They shape us into people who can love deeply without losing ourselves. So let's talk about what it looks like in real life. Family boundaries are the hardest because of guilt, obligation, and old patterns. You may fear being called disrespectful. You may fear being labeled selfish. But here's the truth: boundaries do not reject people, they reject dysfunction. Boundaries say, I still love you, and this is where my peace begins. Let's get practical. I have 3 tools for family boundaries you can use today. 1, say no without guilt. You don't owe a monologue. No is a full sentence. If you want language, go ahead and try a few of these. I'm not able to do that. That doesn't work for me. I love you, but I'm gonna pass. 2, protect your peace in real time. If a conversation turns disrespectful, say, I'm gonna have to step away for now. Maybe we can try this again later after we gather ourselves. We have to be able to name what's going on to really point it out. I'm leaving early. I'll connect another time. Be okay with leaving spaces that's not serving you. 3, step back when access hurt. Loving someone doesn't require unlimited access to you. You decide the door, whether it's wide open, partially open, or politely closed for a season. Remember, boundaries are doors, not walls. You choose what comes in. Say it, and if you need it, say it plainly. You are not responsible for managing other people's emotions about your boundaries. If it's safe, close your eyes. Place a hand over your heart. Inhale, hold it, exhale. Now picture the box I described, the one built from someone else's pain, their control, their unhealed wounds. See yourself standing outside that box. You can see the person that you love inside. You care, you pray, you bless, but you do not climb in. Now, with your finger, draw a gentle circle in the air, or just imagine it. This is the circle of your peace. Inside your circles are your values, your voice, your rest, your joy, your boundaries, and your God-given worth. Say this with me out loud or in your heart. I can love my family and still set boundaries. My peace matters too. I am not responsible for anyone else's feelings about my boundaries. I am responsible for protecting my peace. Inhale, peace. Hold it. Exhale, pressure. Again, inhale, truth. Hold it. Exhale, fear. You are safe outside the box, and you are powerful inside your circle. Boundaries do not mean I don't love you. Boundaries mean I finally love myself. I will not carry guilt for choosing peace. I will not shrink to fit into old patterns. I will not let fear or rejection silence my voice. I can love you and still say no. I can honor you and still protect me. I can be family and still be free. So keep your box if you choose. Sit in it if you must. But I will not climb inside. The box wasn't built for me. I am no longer the child without a voice. I am the woman who found her voice. I am no longer trapped by guilt. I am free in truth. If you're listening right now with tears in your eyes, you are not abandoning love. You are abandoning the lack of boundaries. This is my healing. This is my declaration. And this is my freedom. Thank you for sitting with me in this honest conversation about family and boundaries. Remember, boundaries don't reject people. They reject dysfunction. You can love deeply and still protect your peace. This was part one of our boundary series. Next time, we're going into relationships, the boundaries we lose when love blinds us, and how to reclaim them. I do also want to say in this moment that because of the boundaries that I had not learned to set with my mother, they taught me to also not know how to set boundaries within relationships. And we'll close with still learning. Because no matter how we grow, boundaries will always be the practice, not the destination. If this spoke to you, share it with someone who needs to know. Boundaries with family are not rejection, it's protection. Make sure you have an amazing healing journey on purpose.